Hold on.
It says we're now streaming live.
Oh, we are.
It says it on mine.
Cool.
Hi.
Okay. Hi. See, I'm still learning this technology thing, but anyhow, here we go.
We become moms, and this whole technology world kind of leaves some of us, not all of us.
I know, right? So hi, this is Christine Lackey with Untangled Mom and an Untangle This feature for this week. And we have Laurie Collins, Laurie Collins. I know her from Seymour from years ago, a lovely friend from years and years and years ago, who is married and living in Australia with 2 boys. And how old are they?
6 and 10.
6 and 10. Now, here's the thing of what's going on with Untangled Mom. My intention is interviewing parents from around the world to hear what somebody like Laurie might be doing in Australia. Or last week we had a mom in Baltimore, and to hear our different stories to get a sense of it. And here's the thing with Laurie. So we haven't spoken in years. We just caught up the other day for a few minutes, really. And I have to say, my idea, my dream of Laurie as a mom was she probably floats on air as she goes through her house, effortlessly being with her children, and everything that flows through her mouth is like coming out on petals of roses everywhere, and it's perfect. And when there's an issue in her home, she just effortlessly just helps everybody get into their space, and it's perfect and divine. And that's my thought of Laurie and how she parents. So it's like, I'm going to reach out to Laurie so she can share with us how to parent on a cloud of air. And then yesterday you were like, or the other day we spoke, and what were you sharing with me about the boys? You're turning red, by the way. You're turning red.
I'm just looking at myself like, is she for real? Like, oh my God, amazing perceptions. Like, and then I thought, oh, it would be so funny if my son was listening to this right now, live while we were talking, because he'd be up in the kitchen going, is she crazy? Who is Christine talking about? Oh my God, girlfriend, it's been a while, but your perceptions.
Well, and I love that you're saying perceptions, right? Because don't we do that where we have these perceptions of each other and how that person must be doing it so differently than me, right? I think we all have that perception. And like, I just think about you on the ocean side, near where you live. You have cows, for God's sakes. You have cows and property. Huh?
Alpaca chickens.
A what?
Alpacas.
And you have alpacas?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like how perfect is that? Like, oh, perfect, right?
Right. Well, I will say that we are blessed. We live in Byron Bay, and Byron Bay is the most easterly point of Australia.
Okay.
It has a beautiful lighthouse that stands out there, and it's like a pinnacle that comes out, and we have beaches, blue water, and I mean, it's our autumn, and we've had mid-80s and sunshine lately. We've had terrible catastrophes in Australia in the last 6 to 8 months, but right now we've enjoyed beautiful. And we talk about the Byron bubble because it feels, I don't know if you have the Boulder bubble, but we have a Byron bubble. So it feels like we live a little bit in a conscious, more of a conscious community, I guess you would say, or like-minded people. And sometimes when we step out of that, we forget, oh yeah, okay. But there's this sense of it is beautiful, and I do feel blessed, and it's a lifestyle choice to have lived here.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have land for the children, which makes such a difference, that they grow up in that environment. However, the perception of wafty, lofty, loving, just, well, loving, but this kind of like, ooh, is so not there. And that for me really came because you and I go way back.
Right.
We're friends, and we also used to work in the same organization many years ago in the training. And with that, I I used to teach, I think you were there as well, you know, a workshop called Liberating Your Kid's Shining Potential, which was teaching parents how to really liberate their true child's potential. And I was young and I was single and I didn't have children. And there I was standing talking about all this stuff. And parents were actually like, I mean, it was really, and it is amazing work. But when I became a mom, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I actually stood up there talking. Not that it wasn't a benefit, but that real life experience of becoming a mom. So you can have all these amazing skills in life, but something about being a mom just changes that and brings you right back down to earth. And that's been, I guess, one of the biggest gifts of becoming a parent. And actually very early on in parenting here, because I realized how actually full on this was, and that it wasn't living a single life. This is me, right? I think I see some parents and some mothers, and becoming a mother makes them. They like you, like you. Yeah. I feel that way, that you know, whereas parenting, you know, it was like, oh, whoa. You know, I feel like I was one of those moms that was like, I was living the life of my dreams, and then I became a mom, and then I was like, oh, what am I
Where did my life go? That kind of thing.
What's happening? Oh my God. And I realized very quickly this wasn't going to be all peaches and roses, and it was going to be hard work. And my husband, I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, but it's just coming. I hope it's okay just to share.
Yeah.
And said, we made an agreement that for the first 3 years of our children's life, I wouldn't work. I was like, yeah, no problem. Oh my gosh, to actually be fully present to my child for the first 3 years of their life.
Right.
I mean, a lot of women, that's a gift. For me, that was because it was a loss of my identity. So I reached out very early on to mothers who were in my pregnancy group, and I set up a circle of 5 other women and babies, and we were all our babies were born within 2 to 3 months of each other. So they're all the same age. That was 11 years ago. And we're still together. And I said to them, I want to come together and I want to be a group of parents that can talk, because I can't talk about the name of the pram I bought, or if I'm on formula or not on formula, and what's the right formula. And oh, I didn't have a sleepless night. No, everything's perfect in my world. Like, it's so amazing. And I was like, that's not me. I'm dying inside and I need someone else to talk about it with. Mm-hmm. And these other 4 women or 5 women said, yeah, I'm in. And since then, we have this mother's circle where we've really parented together and shared each stage and what's really going on for us, which includes all of life. But I'm so grateful, because for me, parenting is real. It's hard work. It's amazing. It's wonderful. It's challenging. And it's made me do things I never, ever thought I would do. And it's everything, isn't it? And so
what did you do that you didn't think you would ever do?
Probably namely yell. Like, you know, like that airy fairy, like you're like I have, my eldest son is my button presser, and it's not just me. Like, his teacher, the first year of school, we said, look, we never thought we would parent the way we parent. Never. We're not these type of people. But Bodhi makes us parent this way.
Right.
And we've become parents we don't really like.
We're like, all the time?
Not all the time.
Okay, let's clarify.
Not all the time. Yeah. That's true. Not all the time. But we get pushed to these extremes, or we were with this child, pushed to places we were like, we don't go there in ourselves. What's going on? And about 3 or 4 months later, we had another teacher meeting, and she's like, you know, you said he makes you into the parent you don't want to be. He's like, I think I'm becoming the teacher I didn't really be. You know, it's like, yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about it. We got you. And there's nothing wrong with this child. He's a beautiful, beautiful.
Yes.
He's
Yeah.
just very, very, very strong.
Yes.
In order to that, I've had to become very strong. And so when you say things you don't like, I have. I mean, even now, before the kid, you know, it's like I have to become really strong for him to go, oh, she's serious.
Yes.
You know? Like,
And you know, Laurie, I love that you're naming that, because this is something that I work with a lot of families with, where they have a high-spirited, strong child, right? And
right.
and they struggle with it, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I want to kill this child. And I'm like, look, this energy is so beautiful. You don't want to break it. You don't want to break it. You want to help nurture it. And one of the things is you've got to bring your energy up to meet his energy. You've got to bring your strength up. So especially with moms that I work with, and there's an element, if you're not aware of this, there's some of us moms that are, oh, did someone just come in your door?
The dog wanted in, so someone let the dog in.
Good. This is family time. So some of us like me, we're mindy and we live up here, you know, and then because I have a client who's very mindy, and her daughter is very big, very big. And the mom is like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. And part of what we talk about is, if you were to step into your strength, who would you be? What would you have to face feeling stepping into the truth more fully into who you are? And she was like, oh, but then I really have to like trust myself. I have to really slow things down and trust me and look at where I am afraid that I'm not showing up, that I'm incompetent, you know? And so she and I have to do work on that, because it's like and as parents, I think you can recognize this. Our kids get in our face and it's sort of like, okay, mom, who are you going to be? What you going to show me today? You know, and they show us such a part of ourselves, and they're this invitation to show up more completely as you. And when and if you can, the relationship is so much stronger, and we nurture our children more in the truth of that energy, right? But those strong personality kids,
they're you know, and the beautiful thing is we have to remember, or I have to remember that this is what we want for if you think of your child as an adult.
yep,
like, yeah, go for it. You know, you'd be like, you don't necessarily take no for an answer. You're persistent.
Yep.
You all these amazing qualities. But somehow as a child, we're like, oh yeah, that's not comfortable for me, thanks. You know, and
yep.
and it makes me go somewhere I don't necessarily want to go, and all those kind of feelings. But we just have to realize that, you know, we're fostering, or I have to realize and remind myself what I'm fostering into adulthood. And that just because they're a child, you know, we don't squash this.
Right.
You know, I can meet it.
That's right.
I can say this is not okay, or whoa, here's the boundary and you've just crossed it, and I'm going to hold this, and this is intense for me, but I'm going to do this for you. But to kind of come in and push it down is not. So it's that balance, you know, and that's, you asked like, what's a great challenge? I mean, that's a challenge of how to do that, but to stay authentic
To you.
here.
Right.
As well, you know. And someone said, you know, with these children, like, they're going to be amazing adults, like they're phenomenal, they're going to be incredible human beings, but right now, from here to there, we just gotta hang on and hold on for the ride. It's just hang on.
And then, you know, the one thing I can share too,
I'll just hang on.
with the parenting, whether it's a really strong-willed child or not, when we show up and we show up strong with a strong boundary. And when I say strong boundary, I don't mean it's harsh and it's hard. I just mean like, this is the boundary and there will be a consequence with that. And I will follow through. I'm going to match you and I will follow through. What it creates is trust. The kids know that they trust your word.
Right.
You know, they're like, oh, well, I know I can trust her. So if something comes up and I might be scared, at the moment she says, I've got you, those kids can relax.
That's right.
The other thing that I've seen is when we don't show up for our kids in that way, like you're showing up for your son, some kids can get anxiety. They start getting anxiety and they start showing panic at school and at home, because what happens is they start feeling like they're in charge. But what they know is, if I'm in charge, we're screwed. Because I'm the kid and that's the adult. And that's where anxiety and panic start for our kids.
Well, we haven't spoken about this, but I'll be honest with you. You know, it's been fascinating to me because this particular child, as younger, and it's easing as he matures, but the level of anxiety, and I could never understand, and still my husband and I question, you know, where is this anxiety coming from? Because we're not anxious people.
Right.
And he's not modeled it, but I almost feel there's almost, and I'm not trying to put it out there as it's separate to us, but I do see these children now coming through with this level of anxiety, like almost like a consciousness as well, like something that they're, it's just like there's no reason for this, you know, in this way. But this taking charge that some of these strong-willed children, even when you, like for me, my husband can be away 3 or 4 nights a week. So this little boy kind of sees himself as the top dog, or when dad's away, or even so as a child, like when he was younger, it was like, it was pre-verbal. It was just something that happened in him.
Right.
That he would almost try and top dog me, and he would. And I'd have to come back and go, no. And the amount of time I was like, I'm the mom, you're the kid. You can relax. I got this.
Yep.
You know? And just trying to but regardless, he'd still take that alpha male kind of over me as a mom. And I have noticed, and actually my husband and I talked about this the other day, that since COVID, and my husband's been here, he's not been traveling, and we've actually had quite a long block here where we've been parenting together, which often, you know, he's away, I'm parenting, and he kind of comes back. This feels very much like we are parenting.
Right.
Here,
right.
Working from home, and he even said, I haven't seen that behavior actually. And I said, no. And I feel it's because the male, the alpha, is here, so he's got nowhere to, you know, so that dynamic,
right,
and hopefully is creating that, again, just that constant reassurance. But yeah, I see that pattern in my own child as well, and I do my best to be present and strong and meet him.
Right.
Sorry, she's scratching my leg.
And when we talk about meeting our kids in this energy, we're not talking about, again, I want to be really clear, pushing down who they are or putting them down at all. That's not what this is about. It's about when, like Laurie, when you're saying like, he's like trying to be alpha dog and take over, they try to control. They try to say, this is what I want, this is the way it's going to be, and they can start showing some anger and frustration and get physical too, because they're trying to take the control. And I am not saying that you get control over them that way. A lot of times it is just really putting your feet firm on that ground, and you get that mama bear face on, and you get that tone in your voice that is like, I'm done, like done. Because for families out there where dad isn't home, or maybe dad isn't even present, Us moms have to really learn with those kids how to get in that space with them and be like, okay, I need to feel more solid and hold to what I'm saying.
Right. And I mean, you could even, it's interesting, I mean, talking to you about this, because it's like, there's a male female dynamic, and this male dynamic, like when my husband Brendan, sometimes, like even just now before getting on, I was trying to download, okay, this is happening and we've got this project to get done, and from this time to this time while I'm on this call from you, and my kids are sitting there and they're talking and they're not letting us talk, and I'm just like, and he's just like, out. And out they go, and I'm like, yeah, because I just get, and he's just like, whoa. And it's that, and to find that in ourselves, where you
That's
say,
right.
feed in, and it's just this, it's not like, which sometimes I do, and I do. I'm not gonna pretend I've got it all handled, because this is a big challenge of mine.
Yeah.
How not to just, but
Well, it's funny, like you have your dog sitting there, because an example I give to some moms who are like, I'm not sure how to handle this. I'm like, look, have you ever watched a new mom with her puppies, right? And she'll be laying there and the babies are all like sucking and eating. And she's just laying there and letting them do what they're doing. And there's one little asshole who's just jumping all over the place and not doing what he's supposed to be doing and nipping at everybody. And you could see her little eye, and she's like watching him and watching him. And he's just this little jerk of a dog, right? And he starts to go and get in trouble. What does she do? She doesn't just lay there. All of a sudden, you'll see her go, boom, down. And then she lays down and closes her eyes.
Yeah.
What I try to talk about is you make a correction and you're strong and you're clear, and then you let it go.
That's
One of the biggest hurdles with parenting that I see happen is it's like, you did this, and then you make the correction, and then later on it's like, and you did this, and now when your dad gets home, we're going to talk about what you did, and 10 hours ago you did that thing, and the kid gets shamed, and starts to learn to shut down, as opposed to you get strong in yourself, you give the basic, like, we're done, you're not doing that anymore, and then you let it go.
Yeah.
That's where you can see some of the biggest change, and it's the hardest thing to do.
My sister-in-law taught me this technique when I found it really hard to let it go. And I would, because it especially with, well, maybe it's not just the strong children, just children, where it's just constant, never ending, and you hold on to it, and you're just like, run, it's your fault, you make me feel this way, and she said to me, one of the things she does is she holds her hands out like this, they do it, it's done, and she's like, right, let's put it behind our backs. And this was with the young kid, and they literally both, so Bodhi and I started to do that. Okay, are we done? Let's put it behind our backs.
Yeah.
Done, we're moving on. It's done.
Yeah.
And that was a really great technique to help me through that time where I was probably blaming my child or holding on a lot more than was healthy for me or for him.
Yeah. And you're doing a bit of a pattern interrupt with them, right? We're just like, okay, we're going to do something physical to change this moment. We're going to do this interruption of the moment, and we're going to let it go. And you're doing it together as a team. Yeah. And then as parents, when you really let it go, you build trust.
That's right.
There's this very intimate amount of trust that's built with your kiddos. So Laurie, what's your superpower as a mom?
Oh my God. By the way, Chris asked me this a day or two ago. I was like, I'm so glad you gave me time to think about this, because this is hard. And then I went up and I was like, hey kids, what's my superpower? And I'm really embarrassed to say this. They're like, consuming gin. And it was fueled by my husband. I will say that.
I'm sure.
Oh, I know. They're like, yeah. And because during this COVID time, I might say that my mama's little helper has not been one, but maybe two. So anyway, but I was like, okay, that really is not helping, you know. And then I went walking on the beach with a friend, and I was like, what is my superpower? I don't know what my super, you know. And I was gonna, and then I kind of, when I was feeling into it, it was just this. I feel like there is an ability to feel when my children are off center.
Yeah.
I can feel when something's coming, and I feel like like my husband's oblivious to it, like got no idea, and I can feel it arriving. I can see it, and so it just helps me go, okay, what do they need? How can I support? You know, is it, you know, is it food? You know, is it something as simple as they're actually hungry and
Right.
I need to feed them a little bit more, you know, get something really nutritious, or, you know, where they have to work at digesting their food.
Right.
Or do I need to give them a hot bath and lavender oils and, you know, and hold them in bed a little bit longer tonight? Or is it, you know, sometimes in our schooling, we do things like lemon foot baths and chamomile compresses, and just to bring when the child before it goes way out, is just this ability to tune in and go, whoa, okay, something's going on, and I'm just going to start to work. And often with us, it's emotional, and I can, through our skills of the past or however, you know, go, hey, you know, do you need to talk, or what's going on here? Or, you know, you're starting to get really aggro at me, and I'm not understanding why. You may not even understand why, but hey, just be aware of it right now, and we'll walk through this together.
Right.
This is kind of tapping, I think, tapping into some deeper emotional something that's going on, and being able to help them, hopefully, or give them the resilience or the resources to do it themselves.
Yeah.
To navigate that and know that it's okay.
Yeah. So
Power.
superpower, man. Every mom and every parent needs to take the time, honestly, to sit back and go, so what's my superpower? Because we all have it, right? And we do. And the more we can be aware of it, and the more we can choose to go, oh, I want to practice that a little bit more.
Yeah.
I want to keep that in my awareness and actually practice it more with my kids, the stronger superpower gets, right? It just does.
When I drilled in with my son, though, I was like, it's not really like, what's like, she's like, you're just unique. You're like unique. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does you mean? And he's like, well, you cook for us, you feed us good food. I'm like, every mom does that.
Not necessarily. Moms aren't the best ones. Or some of the moms like eat more avocado, right? They might not like that. Okay, so
Okay.
my other question that I love is, what has been in your home an epic fail as a parent that was then shifted, and you went, whoa, whoa, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, because it turned into something different.
I feel like there's been my whole career as a parent has been an epic fail. But the one, I don't mean that. I just mean that it happens daily. Like, it's just, but there are two things. One, the ability, for me, it's about recovering and saying sorry. Like, you know, so just in a general sense of that, I wondered if my other superpower was to say I'm sorry, because the one thing I know is I am not perfect as a parent. I don't even, I mean, I think I do strive. I think every parent actually, even unconsciously, is striving to be a good parent.
Yeah.
Even, you know, but even though I give myself permission to fail, I still, you know, so it's that ability to go, whoa, that was me.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that. But the biggest, something that happened the other day.
Can I say one thing to that? Because I think you, I get goosebumps when you said, I think my other superpower is my ability to say I'm sorry. And I have to say, 100% across the board, that's one of the most wonderful superpowers any parent can have. Because what it does again with your children is you teach your children we're human, we all make mistakes, and we can always fix it and repair it. And in child psychology, they talk about how repair creates intimacy with your kids.
Right.
And the modeling of it is extraordinary.
And that's my direct experience.
Yeah.
So, and I can tell you I've done some horrible things, but by the power of going, okay, that was wrong, that I was feeling this and this is what happened, and I actually shouldn't have done that, and I'm deeply sorry, and I own that part of myself, you
Yeah.
know, when and it's just brought about, like you say, an intimacy
Yeah.
that I have, especially with my older child, because, you know, they seem to happen more with him. But the other day, we've we've had quite a lot of trauma in our family, probably for the last 6 months or
Yeah.
8 months, and we haven't really had time to process that trauma. We've gone from one trauma to the next, you know, to nearly losing my brother, to losing my father, my children's grandfather, to having family strife within our family, and then COVID, and then homeschooling, and it just kind of, and here we are.
Right.
And it was my husband's father that passed, and so he's had no time, and he has a company that is, you know, a 12-hour drive away. Like it's in Sydney. We don't live close to where our company is, so he's got a lot of stress with and we're in the healthcare industry, so there's a lot of stress around that. But these last few weeks, you know, we're kind of, all of us, processing through our last months, and I can see how my husband is starting to, or is doing that. But it didn't mean that his what it meant is he had a very short temper. He had very little resilience to and patience.
Yeah.
So he had a short fuse.
Right.
And understandably, and we all understand, it's all okay. But the other day, my eldest child, we were putting on shoes to go to play tennis, and he was putting on his shoes, and there was sand in his shoes. Now, what he thought was a very normal thing to do is to take his shoes in the middle of the kitchen and just bang them out
Right.
on the floor. And there is buckets of sand coming out.
Right.
There's not just a little bit of sand, it's buckets of sand where he can actually, he's got the time to write his name in it. You know, how cool is that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's creative.
All right. And so my husband walks in to get, you know, we're going to tennis, and there's Bodie with his shoes, and he's like, what the? And he just went off, which rightfully so. It's like, you know, I'm okay with that. I have no problem with anger. I've got no problem with the emotion of anger being expressed. You know, it's
Right.
just like, what are you doing? Like, where? But what I would say is the amount of anger that did come out this time wasn't representative of what was in front. It felt like it was just the trigger to allow his anger to come out. So that's kind of what we're talking about, where you stand in your power.
Yep.
But then it overtips, or if you're in reaction mode, then it squashes. And
Yes.
this was a dump.
Yeah.
And I stood there next to my son, recognizing what was happening, recognizing it's just my husband's pain of what we've all been through.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa. And my husband said to me, Laurie, if you're not comfortable with what I'm saying, you can leave. And I was like, no, I'm quite comfortable that you want to say what you're saying. Like, I get it. And it's a little bit much. So I'm just going to stay here, you know, and so that, you know, that was just the kind of check-in for him But I stood going, whoa, okay, this is a little bit much. But recognizing my son was doing something that,
Right.
and he said, I'm not going to tennis. You guys go, I'm not going. And we're like, okay. And so we get in the
Was that
car.
dad who said I'm not going to tennis? Okay.
Dad, we're not going to tennis. He said he's not going to tennis. You guys go to tennis. So we went off. He went off for a walk. We went and got food, and the boys in the car were like, whoa, I'm not sure about going home. Dad was pretty angry. And so my son and I unpacked it and said, well, do you think that was the smartest thing to do? Like, if you were at school, would you have done that? Or was it because you're just at home and you just don't, and it's talking about looking after our house and looking after things. And so I unpacked it with him.
Right.
More. And we get home and I brought food and we sit down and then Brendan said, can I say grace? And we're like, yeah. And he said, I'd like to speak first before we say grace. And he said, I've been for a walk and I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry, Bodhi. That was way too much anger. I shouldn't have done that. And I'm hurting still inside from Pa, from everything. And I should never have done it. I should never have spoken that way to Mom. I should have never spoken that way to you. And I'm sorry, Jackson, that you witnessed it, that you had to be here and actually hear it. And everyone went, Dad, it's totally fine. Don't worry. We understand. It's okay. And then we went on and said grace, and dinner was done. Mm-hmm. And that was all. And it was beautiful, but the story continues, which I thought in that self, that was amazing. About a week and a half later, or 2 weeks, it's tennis again, and we're all at tennis. And Brendan's with us. But this time, my eldest gets his back up because he didn't get enough of the coach's time, and he didn't get the tennis lesson that he wanted. And he became this like spoiled brat. And mind you, he gets an added tennis lesson, right? So he gets a family tennis lesson and his own tennis lesson. And it was just like, are you for real, Bodhi? Like this is family time, and it's the way you're saying things is making me feel really like I don't want to take you. You have no gratitude. Like we kind of left it at that. We didn't really say much, but it was just like you're gonna have to handle this one, Boats, because this is too much for us.
Yeah.
This is a real treat, and it feels like you're dumping on it, and you're dumping on everyone.
Yeah.
Anyway, we get to dinner. We all sit down. And he's like, can I say grace? And we're like, yeah. And he said, I just want to say something first. I've been really selfish. I've been really, really selfish. And I realize that selfishness is hurting you guys, and I didn't mean it. And I'm really sorry, and I am thankful for my tennis lessons. Thank you. And we're just like, oh, okay. We're like, it's okay. It's okay. We got it. Thank you. And we went on and had dinner. And I was just like, wow. From my husband to, from what was, where I was essentially protecting my son.
Yeah.
Turned into that. And through his willingness to be vulnerable, share the truth, apologize, repair, that somehow it modeled it for my eldest to just go, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an epic fail that just happened that I thought it wasn't mine, but it was our family and how it,
I love this shit so much. Like I just so love this shit. It's like, oh my God. I love that story and the importance of that story. And there's so many different elements of it. There's your husband being real and having his emotions and them exploiting, and you having his back, and you having Bodhi's back too. Like you were like, no, you didn't get mad at him. You didn't lash out at him. You didn't overprotect the kids. You were just like, just felt a little bit like you named the truth of what happened. Just felt a little like, no, there's a behavior here that doesn't work. You being angry is totally valid, but it was high. And you just named it. And then the naming of it in our relationship with our significant others, in the naming of it, you give permission for breath, for him to be like, oh, let me look at that. Had you persecuted him, yelled at him, there would be no room for breath for him to be like, oh, let me think about that. It would have been, he would just had to have defended himself, right? But you had everybody's back and you held the space, and then you were with your son. And I really feel like, Laurie, as a family, you all created that. And that's another superpower of yours, is to be able to go, I'm just being present in this moment to the truth of what this is. And there doesn't have to be persecution here. Just doesn't. And then the modeling of it. Oh my gosh, the modeling. When he gets married to whoever he marries, they're gonna love you, and they're gonna love his father, because they're gonna be like, thank you. Oh my gosh, what a man you gave me. You know what I mean? Like, seriously. And I think we underestimate how much our kids really do follow our lead and model our demeanor. They model our words. They do so much more than we realize. Like, they sponge it up so much. And what a gift you both gave to him and Jackson. Like, you both gave him this gift. You know what I mean? Wow, that was a
epic fail that turned okay.
that's just so, I just love this stuff, you know. It was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. So yes, the world of parenting, and it's just, I just, you know, there is no book, there is no manual, there is no right, there is no wrong. And I think when it comes to our mothers group, and we, you know, and you realize that, you know, each child's going through phases, there's just so many dynamics within a family. You know, we've got our own stuff, they've got their stuff. And, you know, my only, you know, like, it's wonderful that you support the parents in the way that you do. And I just always encourage parents to get to people that they can talk to really, to about what it's like to be a parent, and show the ugly sides. Because when we do, even as parents, and I have that circle and I go, oh my God, I did this.
Yeah.
And all the other mothers are like, oh, I so get you. And you're like, oh, I'm not the only one. You know, we're all on this journey, and we can normally all relate.
Yeah.
One of us can relate.
Yeah.
When we're real. When it's perfect, I don't relate so much. But when when we're real, I relate a lot more.
And last week when I was interviewing the mama from Baltimore, you know, she named the same thing. It's like, when she's questioning or she's nervous or she's not sure, she reaches out to somebody to like, can you play this through with me? Can I share with you what happened here? And she's got her community. And that community is so important. It just is. And if you don't have a particular community around you, there's so much online like this to support you. We tell these stories and share these triumphs and the challenges so that you can listen and go, oh, yeah, me too. And then hear the little tools in there as well to go, oh, I can try that tool. I can do that, you know? And the other thing too is just hearing the stories. You don't have to write the tools down on a piece of paper at all. You don't have to memorize anything. Just being present to these conversations, you'll find that next time something starts coming out of your mouth, and so I don't know where that came from, or you pull back, or you stand firmer in your feet, and afterwards you go, don't know where that came from. Well, it came from being present. it came from allowing yourself to have these opportunities and absorb too.
And I think that's a really great thing about what you're saying about being present, because you're naming these things that could happen. You could be on your feet strong, or you could actually pull back, because not every situation, it's not like there's a formula, right? It's not like, oh, so now every time it happens, I'm gonna be, it doesn't work like that. And that's why we have to be, like what you're saying, is present. And when we're present, then we can have access, hopefully. And if we don't and we epic fail,
Right?
say own it.
Yeah. The thing for me, the reason why I became so in love with parenting and kiddos is because when my son was about 2, he was having some tantrums, and he had an older sister and she was easy. And then I just had an expectation that his personality was going to be exactly the same way. Of course. I mean, why would he be any different? But he was having these tantrums and nothing I was doing was working. And I hit my limit and I popped him on the bottom. He's wearing a diaper, but I popped him on the bottom and I got his attention, and I was like, ooh. And I got a rush, to be honest with you. Like, there was like a satisfactory type of rush that I got. And I was like, and I felt like a little superior in myself. And I liked it. Yeah. And probably about 45 minutes later, he had a tantrum, and I came back and I hit him even harder on the bottom. And I got that rush again. And all of a sudden I went, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble because there's an element of that I just got satisfaction from, and I don't believe in this.
Yeah, power.
I was raised this way, so I know how to do this behavior. This is what I know. This is how I was raised. It's not what I believe. And that's when I too reached out and I was like, I need help with this because I don't know what else to do. And I started reaching out to other parents. I took love and logic classes, which are big here in the United States, and they're lovely classes. And I was just like, because I recognized I had a behavior that I didn't want, but I didn't have the tool to figure it out. So I had to go someplace else to find it. Yeah. And that was an epic fail that turned into like this amazing gift for me and my family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you're doing this amazing work.
I love it. It's so fun. It's just so fun. I'm fascinated by kids though. Like my daughter who's 14, we're in her room the other day and I'm like, I just find you so fascinating. And she's like, I know, Mom. I'm like, seriously, like everything that you're going through, like I'm so fascinated by who you're becoming. Like, this is the coolest thing. Like, you're like so cool. And she's just like, okay, Mom. Okay. And I took her driving yesterday for her first time. And I'll post a little video tomorrow about our first time driving. It's just it's so neat to grow and to grow with our kids too. It's just so neat. It's such a gift.
Awesome.
And so are you. Thank you for your time. Thanks for making me cry. Seriously.
Of course. I love making people cry. It's another superpower.
Here you go. So 3 superpowers. She's a present parent. She notices when there's something going on. She repairs beautifully. And she holds space for things to go wrong without criticism. That's awesome.
Thank you.
You're the best. I love you.
Love you, Chris. So good to see you.
Nice seeing you. This is Christine Lackey with Untangled Mom. Laurie Collins from Australia, Byron Bay, a ways away. And now away we will go. Bye-bye.